Hi everybody. I'm going to try and do another 30-minute pull request. Today I'm actually going to do something slightly different in that I'm going to pick up a pull request that I opened last week as part of I did like a Friday hack stream last Friday, which was I spent a couple of hours um, prototyping and experimenting with something new. So what I'm going to try doing this time is just pick up that pull request that I put in and push it over the edge. Oh, hey Fabio, good to see you. Um, yeah, so I'm gonna try picking up that pull request, and we'll try and there's like a few issues with it that I need probably just to get it over the line. So let me turn on my scene switcher, and I'm gonna start the clock, and then we'll get going. So click on now, start. Great. Okay, so yeah, I'm streaming on Twitch, Periscope, and YouTube again today. So you should be able to see the little chat thing has got the Twitch logo because you've commented from Twitch. But if other folks comment from other places, they'll all come together, which is quite nice. I'm using Restream. I've kind of linked that down in my repo. But let me jump straight over to Dask Kubernetes, which is the project I was working on. Dask Kubernetes. What's Dask Kubernetes? So yeah, although I have noticed that the like new messages come in above the old messages, which I need to figure out if I can get it to go the other way because I think I prefer it so that new messages come in at the bottom and travel upwards. But and they fade out after a little while as well, which is quite good. Um, so oh, thanks for the retweet as well. Yeah, so you can watch this on Periscope via Twitter. So I think I've been getting a bit more of an audience through Twitter this week. Um, so let's go to my HelmCluster pull request. This was adding a cluster manager um, to Dask Kubernetes to allow folks to work with the Dask Helm chart because they're two incompatible projects and people kept having trouble and getting confused and assuming that you could use one from the other. So I thought as like a quick little hack project, I would actually make it possible to use one from the other, even if the functionality is pretty limited. It's at least gives folks something to look at and maybe some documentation to point them in a different direction. So I raised up this pull request, and I did carry on playing around with it a little bit at the beginning of this week just to see if I could get this over the line. Um, and so the problem that I was having, there's a couple of problems that I was having. One is that the CI is failing. Let's go and have a look at that. But annoyingly, it's failing with no output, right? It says error attaching falling back to logs, but then there actually aren't any logs, and I can't see what's gone wrong um, in the log. So one of the things I want to do is just try and fix that so I can actually see the error logs. The other thing is I kind of assumed that I was going to break the CI anyway because for local development I was using the load balancer configuration, which when you're using Docker Desktop, it just does port forwarding from your Kubernetes cluster. So that kind of makes sense. You say, I want a load balancer to serve on port 8888, and it just serves on localhost on 8888, which is quite nice for testing. But in CI, we're using Kind, Kubernetes and Docker, which doesn't have that feature. So I need some other way of from my tests, like prodding the. Actually, that's the thought. So in the CI, we run a container, and the tests run inside that container, and then it's going to be prodding at the service. So I wonder if there might be a different way that I want to do this. In that, so let me jump over some code. What I was doing last time, kind of after I pushed my pull request, I got to this point. I had actually, let's come back here and just have a quick look. So in my code had like a warning here that just said your Dask cluster has not been exposed outside of your Kubernetes cluster. Please port forward to servers locally if you haven't already, and gives you the actual bash command to do that. Sorry, I might knock my water bottle over. I've got lots of Slack messages pinging. I'm just going to turn them off. There we go. Yeah, it gives you a bash command and tells you, oh, you should run this and then try again, which is fine. But it was returning localhost. But thinking about it, like what I was trying to do in my code, which I didn't do on stream, but I was trying to use kubectl port forwarding. I actually tried using the Kubernetes API first, but there were some problems around the way the Python API works. I couldn't actually figure out a reasonable way of like actually doing the port forward with the Python API. So I was just using subprocess to call kubectl and run a port forward. So this should forward the port locally. And I think that makes sense. If you have a cluster IP and you want to, if you have a service that's exposed to a cluster IP, as in it's not exposed, it's just inside the cluster, as a user from your laptop, you probably want to use kubectl to forward the ports of that service to your machine so you can actually prod the cluster and things. I had some troubles running that locally, as in the tests just hung, and then when I killed the tests, the processes were still running, so they were not dying as I would expect them to. But then also, just thinking about it, the test suite is running inside the cluster. So really, I think I want an option as well, so that you can say, oh, this session is in cluster as well. So I'm constructing this. Yeah, I guess that makes sense, because if you install the Helm chart and then you access the Jupyter notebook from the Helm chart, that notebook is inside the cluster. You don't necessarily even want port forwarding. You might just want connect to the cluster IP. So what I might do is undo this. It would be nice to have this port forwarding working, but I don't think I need it to work for the CI. So I'm actually, yeah, I can rewrite this. Let's just git reset. Hard head. I'm just going to throw that away. Start again. So I've gone back. I've got my error message. That's fine. It would be nice to handle the port forward here with the Kubernetes library. That's great. One change I did make that I think I've just lost is support scaling, which is now true. We do support scaling, which is wrong. But one of the things I think I want is so this is returning localhost and the port, assuming that you're running the port forward. But if you're inside the cluster and you just want cluster IP to work, this should return the cluster IP, right? Because I'm in the cluster, that's fine. If I want to get whatever that cluster IP is, I think I want to put a breakpoint in here, and then probably run my tests so I can get this point. Yeah, okay, let's run the test and see what happens up to that point. So where's my Helm tests? Create a Helm cluster. Let's just debug up to that point. I think I've now got this. Have I got this configured to use cluster IP? No, this might just be using load balancer again. I think I've thrown away. Oh no, okay, cluster IP. The service here in the spec has a type of cluster IP. Yeah, type cluster IP. And the cluster IP, that's what I want, that actual address there. So that needs to be service.spec.cluster IP. Okay, which makes that's fine. It'll give me that back. I think the port is still going to be right. So let's just say, like, I want to give the user an option, I guess, to be like forward the port, or so maybe I need to give that as an option. I'm trying to decide whether it should be in cluster or out of cluster, but I'm just going to add another quag, which is port forward cluster That might be a bit long. Equals false. Pull forward cluster IP. And just turn my I've got like a air filter in here because my hay fever is still terrible at the moment. So I'm gonna try and clear the pollen out. If you can hear any hum from that, let me know and I'll turn up the noise gate. But yeah, I can. I'm just feeling a bit stuffy talking about that. Port forward cluster IP. Yeah, okay, and then I'm going to add up here another documentation. We'll call this port forward cluster IP. Bool optional. Forward. Okay, if the chart was if the chart uses cluster IP type services, forward the ports locally. If you are using HelmCluster from the Jupyter session that was installed by the Helm chart, this should be false. If you are running it locally, it should be true. Like true. So it's going to default to false, and then we're going to say self dot that equals that. Base should be there. Right. Now down here, I'm going to say if forward the port. I'm going to do that, and then I will return localhost. Right. So if we are forwarding the port, this is where we should expect to find things. Localhost. Sorry, we do not currently support local port forwarding. Please port forward the service locally. Yourself with the following command and try again. Following command. Yeah, I mean, I guess ideally what I want to happen is I want to return that. And then if the connection fails, wherever that happens, probably here, then yeah, if the connection fails there, I kind of want it to say this error, but I'm going to do this for now because really I just want to fix that. But I'm going to leave that as false because I don't want to port forward the cluster IP. Let's just run this through. I know it's the old code, but it should. Let's import another in address. Fine. Set import here. Okay. Right, well, I'm gonna go like that, and then I'm gonna just run this again. Let's just run a debug test again. Right, are we gonna get to this point? No, that failed this time. Oh no, the test passed. If port forward cluster IP. I'm a little confused about what happened there. I'm going to be explicit and just say, where's the Dask Helm chat? Dask Helm chat. I want to just make sure that the config scheduler service type cluster IP, and that the partition service type is cluster IP. Let's just try running that again, just to be explicit, make sure we are creating the right thing. Create Helm cluster. I test. Oh, it's failed. Okay. Yes. Right. Timed out trying to connect to that, which is what I expect, but it gave me the right internal IP for that. So my local tests are now broken because I can't access the cluster IP from my machine. But I'm hoping the CI will work. Now let's. I need to get into a position where both work ideally, but yeah, workflow CI. I also want to just get rid of. So run tests inside container. Now these don't want to be interactive, I don't think. I'm sure I tried this. Okay, let's just add everything and say add HelmCluster support. Push. We'll just see. We'll see what happens in GitHub Actions. Let's go and watch that. There we go. GitHub Actions CI. Check my dashboard. Right. Hi, new people that have come to join. Thanks for joining us today and chatting. Oh, Google Chrome just decided to pop up. That's nice. Let's see what's going on here. It normally takes a minute or two. This is the only trouble with trying to do pull requests like this under a time limit, is you're kind of bound by, you do a certain number of CI iterations. But I'm kind of hopeful that we're going to make a bit of progress here. Now I need to think about how this is going to work locally. I'm glad you chose to spend your chill time watching me flap about with GitHub Actions. So yeah, let's have a look and see what we can do about getting my local tests running as well. So because the well, I'm pleased that people have come to watch and see what I'm doing here. So I definitely want to acknowledge you. Ideally, I would like to not be low viewer. I'd like to have some more people and try and get used to chatting a bit. I'm getting used to kind of context switching, right, between focusing on what I'm focusing on, dealing with the time limit in my format, but also like saying hi to people as they drop into the chat. So yeah, thanks for stopping by. Right. Oh, thanks. That's nice to know. Okay, let's have a look. So really, I want to set my service type to load balancer when I'm developing locally. Yeah, so I've got, like, I'm on my main screen here. I've got code and my browser, and I'm kind of swapping between the two. And then on my second screen over here, I've got OBS, and I can see the chat, right? So I keep like referring to the chat, and then looking back at my other screen. That's why you probably see me keep looking from side to side. I do also have my phone, which has got my like Twitch dashboard on down here. So I can kind of see stuff down there. Although I don't find it so easy to like keep track of the chat. Plus, also because I'm using Restream and I'm getting chat, I can get chat from different channels. I don't necessarily want to watch the chat on Twitch. Um, so uh, you're not a Python developer, are you? Yeah, this is Python and Helm, Kubernetes, and kind of GitHub Actions is what we're covering. Yeah, so Restream gives you like your own like chat link. So I've got like my normal overlay from Stream Elements, which has just got the like timer and stuff. But then I've also got a little Restream um, element as well, like web element, um, to show the chat. I tried to see if I could add like an iframe in Stream Elements, but I wasn't able to. We have extreme disagreements with Python. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I spend the majority of my time writing Python. Um, so yeah, and a bit of Go. But yes, I work mostly with the data science community. Python's super popular there, so my hands are kind of tied. Um, yeah, Go's great. I use Go for anything where I want speed or portability or whatever. Um, but yeah, you can't use Restream anymore. Why is that? Well, minus minus rm should only be used for attached containers. That error message. That's not in there. Oh, really? I didn't realize that was a limitation. Well, so if you are like an affiliate, you're not allowed to use restreaming services, or are you not allowed to like reshare the content? Yeah, I'm gonna try just ditching the minus IT as well. The minus minus RM. There we go. Just get rid of that as well. Um, just remove container cleanup because like the CI is going to end, and so um, everything's going to get cleaned up anyway. So I don't think I need to clean up my container at this point. Um, oh right, okay. You have to just be just on Twitch for 48 hours, but then you can share elsewhere. So you could like upload to YouTube afterwards or something. Yeah, that does seem slightly restrictive, limiting you like that. Well, I mean, with Restream, like you just from your machine, you stream to their service, right? And then they handle the like splitting and forwarding onto the other services. So it doesn't actually use any more like processing on your machine. They have some limits around like how many streams. I think you can stream to like a bunch of different services, um, but then like you can only do one of each type. So I could only do like one Twitch stream at a time. So I guess if you want to like stream to a personal channel and a shared channel or something. Um, there's like limitations there. Um, but it's allowing me to do all three of these on the free tier, so that's good. So those things. I mean, I tried out Twitch initially just because it seemed to be a popular place and because Fabio was streaming there, and it was kind of the only place I'd watch this kind of content. But doing this on Periscope and YouTube as well, like I feel like I've got a bunch of options, and this is development, so it's a smaller portion of Twitch streaming, whereas I think like it's more normal on YouTube or somewhere else. So I don't know. I haven't decided how I'm gonna carry on streaming into the future, but I'm nowhere near affiliate level. I need way more followers than that. So if you've not followed me yet and you're watching, please follow me, so that I can start working towards that milestone. I've also said to myself, like, I'm just using my existing setup, right? I'm using my laptop's webcam, the microphone and my headphones. These are just the headphones I use for work. So I kind of said to myself, if I get to the point where I get 50 followers, just because that was what the affiliate level said, I might then invest in some better equipment. But I'm very quick to jump into like spending money on things that I don't need. Um, so like I'm trying to limit myself there. Um, yeah, it's a nice service. Like it must be, they're providing a free service to a bunch of people. Um, so they must like um, it must cost them something to run that, right? Like it's not a small amount of bandwidth. I mean, I'm streaming at nearly 3 meg a second. Um, so they're going to be charging for some things in order to kind of recover those costs, because it is a pretty easy service to make use of. The other thing that I quite like about it is you can set all the channel titles in one place, which is quite nice. Yeah, they do. That's what I'm on. Yeah, I just signed in. I think I signed in with like Twitch SSO. Um, yeah, sure. I mean, I was having trouble yesterday actually because I was having internet issues, and so I wasn't actually able to upload fast enough to run the stream, which is silly because I've got like cable, like fast cable, but I was just having some issues with it, um, like ongoing issues still, but things are okay now. Um, yeah, it's like I think it's pretty reasonable if you have a requirement for the paid service. Like I'm not against paying for things if I'm getting value from it. Oh, what happened there? Run test inside a container. That's worrying. It ran the test in a second and passed, which is suspicious. It shouldn't be able to run that fast. So I'm guessing the tests are not running properly. Um, yeah, either that or people kind of double down, right, and spend more time on Twitch. Um, oh, are they? Oh, that's interesting. Well, kind of like the T-Mobile Orange thing joining into EE, or is one going to become the other? Right, let's keep going and try and figure out. Fair enough. Um, right. There's no output here. Oh, it created the pod, but it's not like blocked on it, right? Um, that'll be what it is. So Q control run wait. It started the pod and then it moved on and then the whole thing died. Maybe it's just the TTY I want to drop then, or the -I. Control run. Yeah, maybe I want to do something like attach. Yeah, let's try doing that. Let's go minus 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 attach, and I'll get rid of the interactive stuff again because I want to wait for the container uh, to finish. Try that. I'm running out of time. Fair enough. What benefits do you get from being an affiliate? Fair enough. That would be quite good. I'm quite pleased. I used to live much more rurally, and I was getting kind of I had like normal ADSL broadband, and I was getting like 2 or 3 megabits, which was dreadful. I ended up getting a 4G router just so I could get a bit more, but that was kind of weather dependent and all sorts. Um, so I was getting like uh, somewhere between like 3 and 12, depending on which way the wind was blowing and whether it was raining and stuff like that. But then I moved house. Now I get Virgin, so I've got like 380 meg down and 60 meg up, something like that, which is fine. Given that I live in the southwest in like a more rural city, um, like I'm not gonna expect like gigabit speeds, but yeah, fair enough. Right, I push that and run it again. So let's have a look. It takes forever to build these things. Okay, my time has run out. So for those of you that are kind of not necessarily been around, the idea of this channel is that I pick a pull request that I try and get in and ready within 30 minutes. I've run out of time. My overlay is still not set up properly, so it just says times, but it should say times up. I'm going to keep going and carry on streaming for a little bit. Um, I've technically failed. Yeah, if I move that, oh no, that was a bad idea. Ah, how do you undo? Like move things in the wrong place. Right, let's get that and then move that. No, sorry about this. Like the right problem. There we go. Yeah, it should say time's up. Um, what I want it to do is when the timer finishes, I want the font size to get smaller, but I can't figure out a way in Stream Elements to set the font size to shrink when the timer finishes. Um, but yes, I technically I've failed this pull request, but I did bite off slightly more than I could chew. Yeah, that's the trouble. Like running CI like this just does take a long time, and I keep going. Just to get kind set up takes 2 minutes. So every time I rerun this, I'm waiting 2 minutes just to get a Kubernetes cluster running for the CI. But yeah, I do wonder if I should. I don't know. Part of the point of this is that I want to keep the stream short so that people kind of drop in, watch for an amount of time that they expect. They can kind of predict and then leave, and you can almost. I don't know if I'm going to get onto like like I'm going to do this on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at this time or whatever. But you could treat it like a meeting or something where, oh, I'm going to block out this half an hour to go to this stream. Um, but I probably am like a 50-50 hit rate at the moment of actually getting stuff done in 30 minutes. Um, so yeah, I don't know whether like maybe I should stop or maybe I should like carry on um, and see. But yeah, I think I don't know, the UK's internet backbone is not in a particularly good state, right, in terms of different providers and things. Um, I mean, near me, there's a couple of different rural providers. GigaClear was putting cable down. There's a company called Jurassic Fiber that are also putting cable down, and they're providing gigabit to rural properties. Um, Jurassic, I think, has just come into my old house, so I was living with like 2 or 3 meg, and now, about 2 months after I moved house, the gigabit became available, which was a real shame. Whereas where I am now, I just have the choice between BT or Virgin. Um, so I I don't have a choice basically if I want the best speeds that I can possibly get. Um, right, fair enough. Yeah, I get like 380 down, about 60 up. Right, run test inside container has failed after 11 seconds with log output. Hooray! Oh, that's amazing. Good. That's what I wanted, right? So I wanted log output, which I wasn't getting before, so I can actually figure out why the tests are failing. But I wanted to block on those, so that is fine. Um, so I'm just missing Helm, which I assumed would be installed, but it isn't. So let's just say GitHub Actions install Helm. Um, this is just want a little copy snippet I can just steal for. Yeah, check that out. Helm action. Okay, there is a thing called delivery bot. Might just have to helm install Ubuntu. I want to live on the edge because this is CI. I enjoy that it says that. Right, install and start kind. I'm going to do this right at the top. First operation, install Helm, and this will just run. Let's make this block like that. We'll just say kill that through bash. Get Helm free. Right, git add, git commit. Right, install Helm in CI. Git. Yeah, I think it was like a similar thing where I was living before, but like a company came in and is now laying out the cable. Um, I think you would end up paying like 80 or 90 pounds a month for like gigabit, which is expensive, I think, for broadband in the UK. Um, but it's I think if you live rurally, you're not going to expect to get like amazing speeds or cheap speeds. Although speaking to like my colleagues in the US, um, they seem to be spending far more on an internet connection than I do in the UK. So maybe we are reasonably lucky. We've got slow infrastructure, but we've also got cheaper infrastructure than other people. Um, right, let's see how things are doing. Run this again. Right, install Helm. Helm installed that time. Got Helm. Helm saved into the right place. Um, but in all seriousness, like what benefit would you find from having a 10 gig dedicated line to the internet? Like, how much of that would you actually utilize, and how much value would it give you over like a 1 gig line? But even though, like, where do you put it? You'd be spending thousands of pounds on hard drives just to put things in places. You'd have all of the Linux ISOs from every release of every distro ever, and you'd still be not maxing out that cable. I used to work in an organization when I joined the organization. Like, this is a big building with 1,500 staff in, and it had gigabit internet. That was 8 years ago, and they did upgrade to 10 gig for 1,500 people. You know, large scale IT operations, data centers, like all of that on a 10 gig line, and that never topped out really. Yeah, that's reasonable, but you wouldn't want all of your hardware at home, right? You'd pay for like a colo data center or something where somebody's actually managing the environment and the servers and the room and everything for you, and they worry about having the high speed internet. Right, we're talking about just building again. I'm just going to keep going until I get this right. Anybody who came for the 30 minutes, um, feel free to drop off. Um, I've kind of failed this one. Actually, what I'm going to do while this is building, I'm going to do kind of what I was talking about doing in my last stream, which was around wrapping up. So I've got a project board now on my Git repo, um, where I'm kind of tracking the pull requests that I'm raising. Actually, don't have a card for this pull request. I'm just going to make a card for it, because I did this in a Friday hack session. So yeah, I'm kind of keeping track of some issues that I might raise pull requests for, uh, raising pull requests, and then I just have a nice count of what's been merged and what's been closed. So in raise pull requests, the only ones that have changed status, I've just added this one. Yesterday I put one in for allow HelmCluster, pick a list of connect options. So that was solving this issue. So I'm actually going to archive that note. And yeah, this is what I'm working on. So this one has now been merged. Let's just have a quick look. This was just adding a favicon to a HTML template in the Dask performance report. I got a bit of feedback on changing some directory names, but then that got merged in 16 hours ago. So that's now on master. Will be in the next release of distributed. So that one was a success, and I can move that over into my merged pile. I've now got 5 merged PRs that I've done while streaming on this channel, so that's great. And so far, I've got none which have been closed, which does happen, and that's totally fine. That sometimes a pull request doesn't go in, but so far I'm 5 for 5. Yeah, I guess so, but still, you've got to worry about, do I want to worry about the data center in my house? I say that there is a homemade server rack behind the camera, with my with my own little mini home data center. But at the same time, like, if I'm doing some gardening and I accidentally cut through the Virgin cable that's coming through my front lawn, I don't have to worry about, it's just my own stuff, and it's my own home lab that is going to go down. This is what colos are for, right? Is having somebody else worry about the environment, even if you are capable. You just kind of, you're paying somebody else for that responsibility. I guess it's like cloud computing, right? I ran a workshop on cloud computing yesterday, and one of the things we're talking about a lot is part of the point is that you're paying other people to deal with, like, the grunt work of keeping everything on, and so you pay a slight premium for that, but it's worth the, like, on call headache for sure. Right, let's have a look. What's next? Oh, it's still not happy. I've installed Helm, but it's still not. Missing dependency Helm, but I have installed Helm. Let's just, like, not on my path or something. Let's have a look. Like, GitHub Actions install software. Oh, that's interesting. Helm is installed, which is pretty much what I would expect, right? Oh, fun. JavaScript, even more gnarly than Python. Right. Why am I not being able to run Helm? There must be something to do with my path, right? I'm going to come back and I'm going to remove this again because Helm should be here. Actually, what I'm going to do, if I just do Helm status, what I want? No, Helm. No, let's just do Helm version. I want to make sure that I've actually got Helm. If I run Helm version, that's fine. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say something like check Helm. I'm going to run Helm version here. Helm version. Just to make sure it is installed. So let's add that. Yeah, fair enough. I mean, it's the point of having a home lab, right? For building and experimenting and learning and everything. But you can get decent colo, but not too much money as well. It's interesting to see, like, different companies who, like, run their own hardware compared to, and have valid reasons. I can see like a streaming backend being like a completely valid reason for running your own stuff rather than renting, bare metal or VMs or something, because you want, like, full control over the network and like a whole bunch of other stuff you might not, like, be able to access. But, like, I'm curious from, like, a streaming point of view whether you would be able to get fast enough performance on a cloud provider. If is there like a big technological blocker to using something like AWS or Google Cloud? I'm gonna keep checking this. Look, check Helm. They printed out the Helm version. Fine. My code doing which Helm in Python? I wonder if I should try doing, if I do like Python minus um, fix that code there. What was the command for running an inline? I really can't type today. It's terrible. See, that's what I put. So why is that? Let's go IPython. It's weird. IPython import shootil rich. That's more what I was expecting, right? Why is that not working here? Maybe I need to print it. What if I do something that doesn't exist? Done. I might just throw that in as well because no, this is it's in the container. That's why. This is part of the challenge around installing things in containers, running things in containers, because I need that in the container. That's my problem. Yes. Oh. Yeah, okay. Let's just get rid of this as well. I don't need to check Helm. Yeah, okay. It's completely about Helm because my tests are being run inside a Docker container. So it's not about the GitHub Actions environment. It's about the container environment. Let's git add again. Git commit -m install Helm in container. Oh, that's silly. This is what I mean, right? You end up going round and around this loop in developing something where you're testing CI. You make silly little mistakes, but you have to go round and around and around like a 3 or 4 minute wait before you realize what's actually gone wrong. So I just want to check as well. Dask Kubernetes works because the Kubernetes cluster talks to the Kubernetes API, and those tests are passing. So yeah, because you're creating a service account test runner. Fine. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that the Helm chart would actually have permission to install, and it does. So that's fine. That makes a lot of sense. So again, I'm mildly optimistic that this might be my last time around the loop, but there's a famous last words. So let's just see. Let's see how things go. If a couple more minutes. If anybody wants to chat in the chat, we're probably just going to sit here and watch little orange spinning things for a bit. Please do rather ask questions. I'm also just going to have a look and see what other spinning things are going on. I'm just checking my Twitter to see if anybody is like on the Periscope side. See, Twitch does seem to be the most popular. I know I've only been doing it for a couple of days on these other platforms, but Twitch does seem to be the most popular place for stuff. So I do get why um, you might want to like limit yourself into using Twitch um, because it is a good place. It seems well, people seem to be discovering the channel anyway, so that's good. Um, so let's have a quick look. Let's have a quick talk through what's going on in this CI because I don't think we've covered that yet. Um, So this is the GitHub Actions CI for Dask Kubernetes. It's got one step, which is just running the linter, right? So this checks out the code, installs Python, installs the dev dependencies, which has got like Flake8 and Black in it, and then it runs those just to make sure that they are compliant. Okay, what are you saying about the cloud? Yeah, I guess it depends on how you're doing things. Like the costs tend to scale reasonably linearly if you can configure things in a good way, but the overhead is there, right? They are providing a service to you, um, and you've got to kind of maximize your use of that service, and you end up paying a premium for that. Whereas you can kind of do things. I mean, I always find one of my favorite like blogs to follow is the Stack Overflow blog because they and Reddit as well because they like manage all their own hardware, um, and they've kind of got things tuned really finely, and it's quite nice. Um, it's also quite interesting. There's another podcast that I quite like called Under the Metal, which is some like a bunch of computer scientists that have started a company called Oxide Computer. And they're kind of looking at um, well, the big hyperscalers like Facebook and Google and that are kind of building custom hardware for their own requirements, and they're at the scale that they can do that. Whereas small companies can't, it's not in their interest to make bespoke hardware and things. So they're kind of trying to fill that void in between. Oh, I'm going to go out and buy a Dell server, and oh, I'm a giant company and I can design my own motherboard. They're trying to kind of slot in the middle of that, and they keep interview. They have a podcast where they interview folks, and there's some really interesting things around, like oh, we set up our switches with these very, very specific configuration options to make sure that our memcache databases are running optimally. And having really, really tight control over the hardware allows you to kind of get some performance optimizations. Um, and yeah, I can imagine like a streaming backend type service is the kind of thing where you want to be making like micro optimizations, because those optimizations will probably scale out, right? Because you're chugging so much data through. Uh, Hell not found. Oh, okay. I can't actually do that without that. So this Dask dev image is based on Ubuntu. So I think I'm going to have to install curl as well. Run at get update and at get install curl -y, and let's just break that like that, right? So install curl and then curl helm. That's annoying. So yeah. Yeah, that should be right. Install curl in Docker image. One of the downsides to Docker images, right? They're nice and light and portable, but they're also missing really standard utilities that you use all the time, like curl. Let's have a look. So run test inside the container failed again because Helm's missing again, which makes sense. Go around this loop again. Yeah, this is the thing, right? In the time of this video, I've been streaming for an hour now. Obviously, like the first 5 minutes of that was a countdown, and then maybe another 5 minutes of me chatting. But then, most of this time has been sat waiting for CI because I pushed a load of commits. Okay, fair enough. You're trying to do like fingerprint matching on content so that I guess you want to be, because Twitch does stuff. If you play music that's copyrighted, right, it like blocks out sections of your stream if in like playback and stuff. I guess that's the same kind of things that you want to do. And yeah, that makes sense. It's like a hardware-based task. But you can use GPUs on lots of different platforms. Hooray. But yeah, no, I get where you come from with grid hardware. Right. I'd love to speed up this step actually, install and start kind Kubernetes in Docker. This is actually using a this engineered setup kind. If there's a way of like making that go faster. I've not actually started this. I'm using it, but I've not started it. Always start your dependency. Right. Just curious to see uh, the TypeScript action. What's it actually doing? It is okay. Downloads kind, mods it. Okay, so there's TypeScript that's just wrapping bash, basically. It's just saying find cluster create, and that's what we're waiting on. So maybe there's not a huge amount that we can do about that. But yeah, 2 minutes is a bit of a shame. I wonder if there's anything we can do. Ready after 49 seconds. Something else must be taking a minute then. It's really after 49 seconds, right? Is it? Okay, we installed curl and we pulled. Yeah, okay. The Docker image now does have Helm successfully installed, so I'm hoping the test will run this time. Now we actually get onto problems with, oh, do the tests actually work? Um, that's a whole other excitement. I'm not sure why this takes so long. Here, what is this step doing? Is this pushing it somewhere? Load Docker image, yeah, kind load Docker image. I guess this is the next thing that's happening because the image has built here, and then it says image not present on kind. It's pushing it into kind. I guess there must be some internal registry. There we go. Next thing, run test inside container. Okay, it's looking more promising. Actually running PyTest now. Yeah, that's reasonable. I get that having custom hardware makes sense for doing fingerprint checks on like a variety of different things. Um, I don't know if your comments kind of like got cut off. I don't know if that was the end of it, but probably open the restream like chat somewhere else as well for longer messages. Right, this is testing. These tests are still testing the kube cluster. So like in Dask Kubernetes, you have two classes. We have kube cluster, which speaks to Kubernetes and creates. It kind of bootstraps the cluster itself. It submits a scheduler, it submits workers, it gets them talking to each other. It's great for like building ephemeral clusters. And then HelmCluster is the new one I'm adding, which assume somebody's already used Helm to install a functioning cluster into the Kubernetes cluster. And this is just wrapping around it to give you some handles in Python that you can prod and push, like scale and grabbing logs and stuff like that. So you can scale up and down from the Python side of your code, which I think should be helpful. So yeah, the first set of tests are going to go through and test the kube cluster, and then we should get through to our tests that we care about for this PR, which is the Helm tests. What I'm partly concerned about is that we're actually I've got a test fixture which is creates a Kubernetes a Dask cluster with the Helm chart. Um, I want to make sure that fixture actually works and passes because in the tests, as long as the fixture works and we can get connected to that scheduler, which should do because we're inside the Kubernetes cluster, we should be able to speak to the cluster IPs directly. So hence one of the things we might get stuck on is resources, because we haven't specified any resources. I think the defaults are sensible in that there aren't any. Let's see. Ask values. Because if it's asking for 6 gig of RAM or whatever, we might not get that. No, all the resources are commented out by default, so we should be able to get all of the things up and running. The fact that this is hung and stopped here makes me think that maybe the cluster's not going to come up, which means this job may time out. It shouldn't take this long. The tests, the fixture here, we run helm install dask. Oh, that's interesting. That might be a problem in that we're not running helm repo add dask, so we don't actually have the helm chart repo anyway. I would expect this command to fail because this doesn't exist. I'm not quite sure what this is hung on now. But yes, I'm gonna have to fix that in the CI, aren't I? We want to run that command. I think I'm gonna have to add it here, aren't I? I'm gonna put it in a new command. Let's go run. And I just want to grab, there's an example that I put here actually, which is here, helm repo add. I'm just gonna take those and put them in the run command. Let's go like that, and then put that out and go and helm repo update. I'm gonna just have some comments. Let's just say install Python dependencies, install Helm, and then install the chart repo, the Dask chart repo using Helm. Right. That's fine. So we should get that. Let's add that. Yeah. Install Helm chart repo in container. This container is just for use in CI anyway, so it doesn't really matter too much. Yeah, no, it sounds like a cool project. Interesting thing to work on. Right, refresh that again. Right, I've got to wait again, the 2 minutes for kind and the 2 minutes for building the Docker image and all of that. This is why this has taken so long. I feel like I'm at the point where I should maybe stop the stream just because we've been going for an hour or so now, and a lot of this has just been waiting for CI, which is, what my day job is quite often, waiting for CI and trying to do things in between. But I feel like I've kind of gone through all the bits and pieces of this, and we're diminishing returns. That was the word I was looking for. I think I'm going to drop off now. I'll probably tweet later if this was successful, and I get somewhere. I'm going to try multitasking with some other things. So yeah, I'm going to stop here. Thank you so much for joining me, watching me flail about with the HelmCluster. Come and find me on social media and other places. All of this. Let me just show you quickly the. I'm kind of using this Git repo as like the homepage of this streaming channel. So head here, find me on different places. Give me any feedback, I'd appreciate. I want to get better at this and improve.